John Wagnon. Am I turned on? Yeah, now I am. Okay. He's the man. In case you wondered who the man was, right there. The man. And to the most consistent question that everyone keeps asking me, yes, I do have juicy, good stories on Wendy. However, we have an agreement. If I tell stories on her, she will tell stories on me. So kind of a mutual blackmail going there. Not going to disturb that. But yes, she was a holy terror when she was young. So my friend Sarah, I went to college with her. She's a preacher's wife in central Illinois. Not much goes on in central Illinois. Wow, someone's been there. As evidenced by the fact that these ladies were all like, we're going to plan her ladies group at her church. We're all going to plan this big weekend. We're going to go up to Chicago and we're going to go shopping on whatever the areas in Chicago are that you shop at. And they had this big weekend plan, but the big culmination, the big climax, the big pinnacle of their trip was, we're going to see, wait for it, Oprah. The all-seeing eye of the universe, Oprah. So they were going to go to the Oprah show. And when they got there, they're all like, we're going to go on Oprah. And they noticed on the marquee out front, there was it didn't say who was the guest. You know, who are they going to have? Brad Pitt? Tom Cruise? You can jump on a sofa or something? What's going to happen here? No, there was nothing. That's weird. So they get in, and everyone's like, so have they said who's going to be on the show? No, they haven't said. They're all kind of wondering. And then he said, then she came out on stage. Oprah came out. She goes, hello, everyone. I don't do a good Oprah. But she came out, she goes, we've got some fun things planned for you. And they're like, okay, wait a second. And Sarah said, all of a sudden, there was something strange in her demeanor. There was something she was hiding. She said there was a twinkle in Oprah's eye. And Oprah's like, we've got some fun things. We got some things we think you're going to really like today. She, like, out with it, woman. What? And finally she goes, today is my favorite things. Which, if you're an Oprah fan, if you ever watch the Oprah show, that is the time to show up at the Oprah show live. Because Oprah says, and this was like 10 years ago, but here's some favorite new gadgets that I have personally, me, Oprah, the ultra gazillionaire of the universe, here's what I have bought personally, and you know it's got to be good. And then, here's the best part about my favorite things, and all of you are getting one. Every time she presents something, everyone in the audience gets one. So I was like, here's this amazing new gadget. Here, I'll tell you what year it was. First, one of them was that sweeper that just rolls across the rug with what is it? Yes, that. So that was it. And you're all getting one. And then they got one of those, and they got some Weber grill that she really likes, and they got one of those. And here, this will tell you the year. This new thing called the iPod, it was, iPod. So that should tell you pretty much places some of you technology geeks can name the year that was. And you're all getting one. They're like, wow. And so it was like amazing. They just happened to show up for this show. And they come away with thousands of dollars worth of great stuff, you know, clothing items and all kinds of things. Here's my point. They said when Oprah came out, though, you could tell there was an excitement in the air. Wait a second. And she said, I could not define. I can't tell you what. I couldn't point to something on her. We just knew something amazing is forthcoming because she just had that twinkle in her eye. Now, I never, up to that point, had really thought much about twinkles. It's a regular part of our language. You can't find it in a medical dictionary, I'll tell you that. The twinkle is located near the east cornea, anything like that. And yet we all know, no, you get twinkles, and it's always in the eye. You never hear much about twinkles on the elbow or anything like that. Okay, I have heard of twinkle toes, but I think that's another condition altogether. But twinkle in the eye. And it comes to, and we all know what that twinkle means. Yes, somebody has a twinkle in her. It means that somebody is scheming something amazing. That's what the twinkle, that's what causes the twinkle. Somebody has something in mind, and they're really good at keeping it in, but there's a little bit leaking out through their eye somehow. Again, I have no medical explanation for this. Don't run this, doc, I think I'm having a twinkle trouble over here. Not going to work. Also doesn't sound particularly manly if you want to share that at the water cooler. Jim, I've been sporting a twinkle lately. That'll get you beat up at the playground. But I think we all know what it means. And again, it has to be, I have something amazing, but I'm not going to tell it yet. That's the twinkle. Sometimes you may have some relative that's really good at that. Maybe your dad was good at that. He goes, kids, I had something planned for this weekend. And you look at him, he's going, maybe wink at you and like, wait a second. Now, if you can't keep a secret in, you don't get the twinkle. That's one of the requirements of the twinkle. You have to be able to keep it in. There's always the family blabbermouth that, I can't stand to wait. We're getting you a new bike. Oh, Mom, why did you tell? Those people don't have twinkles. Twinkle comes from like, okay, I'm scheming something, but I'm not going to tell you what it is. Now, the reason I'm talking about the twinkle is because after decades of Bible study, I have noticed a twinkle in God's eye. And not only I want to share this observation, I've realized now in order to survive as a Christian, you've got to recognize, you've got to have on the forefront of your head, always, every day, you've got to recognize that twinkle in God's eye. Because there are some days when you're wondering, what is going on? We're going to look at a story this morning, John chapter 2. This passage always gets quoted at every wedding because I think the official word is this beautiful wedding which Christ adorned and beautified by his miracle at Cana. That's actually in the official marriage little black book. That's the little phrase. Anyway, here it is. On the third day, a wedding took place at Cana in Galilee. Jesus' mother was there, and Jesus and his disciples. Why were they there? They got invited. There was no real holy reason. They got the little thing in the mail, the little card, and the little piece of tissue paper came out of it, and you are invited, you and your son and any of his friends that want to come along. If he has any disciples, plus 12, Jesus plus 12. Anyway, so it's just a normal wedding. Now, normal wedding to the Jews is something different than normal wedding to us, because this monster lasted 6 days. 6 days was the length of a Jewish wedding. Now, there was some strategy in this. Part of the reason was the fact that if you're the father of the bride, so you want to take my little girl away, do you? I want to make sure that I know that you are financially responsible. If you can afford one of these behemoth weddings, okay, I feel a little bit better about your financial state. So part of the deal was, if you're a groom, you've got to save up money. That's why they say the average male got married in Israel around 30. Well, yeah, it takes 10 years to save up for one of these rotten kids, the huge weddings. Meanwhile, the average age of girl getting married in Israel was like 13, 14. Kind of creepy, actually. But, so, that's inherent. I have to tell you that for the sake of the story. You have to know that there's a lot hanging on. The groom is very worried. I got to make sure I order enough of everything. So, the wine is gone. Now, we're going to have to read between lines here a little bit. Jesus' mother knows the wine is gone. I'm guessing the groom's up at his table, like having a good time laughing, and people are coming out high-fiving him and patting him on the back. And then the manager of this wedding you had to hire, he comes up to him. I need to speak to you, Bob. Come here. And then he pulls Bob aside and and then Mary's watching this whole thing, apparently. He's like, where's the wine? Oh, I thought I ordered enough. No, we're all out. It's halfway through. We're like on Wednesday of this 6-long thing. He's like, you don't have any more? Oh, come on, man, this is great. Why? I told you to order wine. I didn't have enough. Whatever happened. Okay, but Mary is on to it. Mary sees this whole thing. Being Mary, she's like, So she goes to Jesus, and she says to him, hey, they have no more wine. Now, what follows here is very interesting. Jesus says to her, dear woman. I'm glad they put dear in there. That's actually a better translation. Some of you say, woman? Kind of sounds disrespectful. Woman, why are you talking to me? Anyway, dear woman, it was more of a thing of respect. He actually did not say mother, though. He did say, dear woman, ma'am, why do you involve me? My time has not yet come. Okay, those quotations are oddly placed. Wait, back it up. Yeah, there we go. Now, does this sound like, so if you're asking the question, hey, listen, they've run out of wine, and he says, why do you involve me? My time has not yet come. I got to ask you, does that sound like a yes or a no? That sounds like a no to me. I don't know. So it's like, why do you involve me? Sorry, never mind. Yeah, my time is, sorry, my apologies. I'll be over here. Just wanted to, it's never, I think to all the rest of us normal people, that sounds like he's not going to do anything. But this is Mary. Who knows Jesus better than Mary? She's known him for 30 years now. And she tells him, and she knows there's something wonderful coming. Hasn't happened yet. He's not done a single miracle yet, but she knows this one is special. She knows from a lot of events in her life, this one is very special. And she says to him, they're out of wine. Now, Mary obviously sees something that we don't see in this text. You can interpret this way, dear woman, why do you involve me? My time hasn't yet come. But there's something that Mary sees. So maybe you could say it like this, dear woman, why do you involve me? Because my time hasn't yet come. Okay, it's a little different. Whatever it is, Mary sees something right after that, or right before his, back it up one more, right after that period and that quotation mark on wine. They have no more wine. One more. Locate it. I need a joystick up here. Jesus and his disciple. Okay. All right, open your Bibles. I don't know. Third day. Keep going. Flippity flip. Next, we have that, and then the next one. And then, okay, yeah, here we go. No, one more. There we go. Boom. Okay, that's what I wanted. So somewhere right on that period after the word, my time has not yet come, period, quotation, somewhere in there, Mary sees something that's not included in the text. She has to have seen a twinkle in Jesus' eye. My time hasn't yet come. Because he didn't actually say no. He says, maybe, I'm kind of curious why you're involving me, because you know perfectly well that I have not yet done anything supernatural. That's another way of saying that. But something in there, Mary sees something, okay, some little twinkle in her son's eye. All righty, because then she proceeds, now the next one. Then she proceeds to say that she goes over to the servants, do whatever he tells you. Now, that's not what I would have done. If he'd have been told me that, I wouldn't have. But she's like, I think he's scheming something. Do whatever. See that guy over there? Which guy? The guy at table 17, the Jewish-looking guy. And that's not going to help. Yeah, that one over there. If he tells you something, do whatever he says. And the servants are like, we're just servants. Sure, whatever. And sure enough, what the rest of us wouldn't have seen that Mary sees is all of a sudden, Jesus gets up from his table, walks over to the servants. And they're like, hey, that guy's coming. Which guy? The guy that, remember, we're supposed to do whatever he says. That lady said, well, who's she? She's not our boss. I don't know. We're just servants. Nearby stood 6 stone water jars, the kind used by the Jews for ceremonial washing, each holding from 20 to 30 gallons. These were big honkers. These were like up to here, okay? Nearby. So Jesus says to the servants, fill these jars with water. Now, why are we listening to him again? That lady told us to. I don't know. So they go out to the well, and this would have taken some time to fill up that much. They are out there for a while, and they're filling it. They wheel them back in, roll them, okay. And he says, okay, now that you've done that, draw some out with the little scooper and take it to the master of the banquet, the manager. So they do so. Now, I don't think this would have been an enjoyable thing. You want to take it to him? I don't know. This goofy guy keeps giving us commands, and now we have to scoop out well water from this and take it to the master of the banquet. This doesn't make any sense. I think they're flipping a shekel over this one. Like, I'm not doing it. Okay, you lose. Oh, man. And whoever's low on the totem pole has to like, sir, don't get mad at me. But see that guy over there, table 17? He told us I'm supposed to give this to you. I don't know what's going on. So the master of the banquet tastes what everyone thought was water. And like, whoa. And then the master of the banquet goes back to the groom. You dog, you. You had me going, man. I thought you were out of wine. This is great stuff. Now, there's a verse coming up here that we're not completely comfortable with. A lot of people aren't, but it's there. I'm reading it anyway. He didn't realize where it come from. The servants who'd drawn the water knew. Then he called the bridegroom aside. I did that already. And he said, everyone, and here's the part, everyone brings out the choice wine first at the beginning of this 6-day wedding, and then the cheaper wine after the guests have had too much to drink. But you have saved the best till now. I don't know what kind of, I would like to think, and you can jump on I would like to think that the kind of wine that Jesus made, nobody got sloshed over, okay? It's not up there. I'm purely speculating. But it makes me feel more comfortable. But that's not the point. None of that is the point. The point is something amazing. The very first miracle happened, even though Jesus said something off-putting. Now, this is not my main point today, but I will throw into you from following him for how many decades I've been following him. At times, God will give you the off-put. You're like, God, please, you're going to do this for me, and then it'll get worse. What was that? I prayed for this to get better, and it got worse. It's the off-put. Sometimes God will do that. He'll like, watch this. And you can see there's several times, different sermon. I won't get into all that, but there's several times where Jesus does this. Somebody says something to him, and he says something off-putting. Why would you do that? It's all part of God's genius. So he says something off-putting, and we have a great miracle. And the point is this. We need to have the sensitivity of Mary, who can see the twinkle in his eye. And even though things look off-putting, and even though things look like nothing good is going to happen, you know, I think something good's going to happen. Why? I see that twinkle in God's eye. Can you, in your mind's eye, see that twinkle? When you picture God, can you see the twinkle? Some days, when things are going well, you see it. Oh, man, I want to high-five God. This has been a great week. Woo! Yeah, things are going great. And then there's those other weeks, those other months, those other years sometimes where like, can I get a break here? God, what in the world are you doing? And it's those times when you have to, like Mary, look up at God and see that twinkle. He's on to something. So, first of all, I want to take this time to say, when it comes to the twinkle, this is how you have to see God. This is how you have to picture him. And if you can do that, things will go well for you. You are going to enjoy life much more if you can see God with that twinkle in his eye. When I was growing up, we switched churches when I was like 7 or 8. We went to some stodgy stained glass organ playing, church. And then we started going to this crazy other church. It was Church of Christ, where there was like loud singing and bright lights and all kinds of crazy things. And for the first time ever, this was late 60s, but racially mixed church, which I guess was fairly radical for that day and age. But I remember all kinds of new people. So I was like 7, 8 years old, and everything was brand new to me. And there was this lady in our church, Janet Wilson. I didn't know her well. Black lady, tall, sturdy looking. And I did not know, because I was a kid, what kind of good sense of humor she had. So one time, I remember we came on one of these rare moments where my family actually arrived early. Yes, it's a family trait. Hey, not funny when other people say it. Anyway, but we were actually there waiting for the thing to start, and we're sitting, the Jones clan is all sitting in this pew, and Janet Wilson comes up. And she's got the most serious look on her face. She goes, "This is my pew. You are sitting in my pew. This is the pew that I like to sit at, and you're sitting in it." And I'm like, because did I mention, tall and sturdy looking, like she's going to, and then my mother starts mouthing off to her. "I guess you should have got here earlier. You would have your seat." Well, I thought it was understood that this was my seat, and I could sit anytime I wanted to. I'm like, "Mom, knock it off. She can take you. I'm pretty certain." Then my dad starts in. He goes, "Well, I didn't see her name written on it." I'm like, "Dad, shut up. I think she might be able to take you too." Like, oh. And it gets going, and they're jawing back and forth. "Well, I just thought you'd have a little bit of respect for me. When I sit here normally, this is where normally I always say, I thought you'd be out of my pew." And I think, well, I guess you need to come earlier. And they're like trash talking back and forth. And I don't know, they're kidding. And I'm like, oh, gee. But as scary as that moment was, I kept looking up at my dad. And my dad just had this smirk on his face like, okay, he doesn't seem to be fearing for his life. This must be a good sign. And I kept looking back at her, and she would say another sarcastic remark, and then my dad would say something snarky back, and I kept scared to death. But in the midst of my fear, I kept looking at my dad. As long as he still had that little smirk on his face, we were going to be okay. If he's not scared yet, I guess I don't have to be scared yet. And it took me years to realize what a wicked sense of humor Janet Wilson. She was great sarcasm and great stuff. It was one of my teachers growing up. But do you get the analogy? That one just kind of drops in your lap, doesn't it? You don't have to be scared if you look at Dad and he's not scared. All right, that one couldn't be any easier, could it? So in this day and age, when you find you're like, oh, what's going on? Things are out of control. I think the surveillance cameras are down in my sector. I think God has lost my file. I don't think he knows what's going on. And if you can picture God just with that cool look on his face. I got this. Okay, I guess I shouldn't be scared. He doesn't seem to be upset. God never looks scared, does he? If you can just picture God not looking scared, you can look to his face and realize things are going to be okay. Now, this was put greatly to the test about, what was it, 2011, 2012, something like that, a few years ago. My wife said, I don't know, I have these symptoms I'm not sure about. So we got checked out at the doctor, and then we got the worst possible news. The doctor says, I'm sorry, you have lymphoma. You have cancer of the lymph nodes. Like, wow. Now, some of you have gone through times like this, and you're really convinced God is in some other part of the universe. He's not paying any attention to what's going on here. And I remember the first 24 hours was, I would call white hot terror. Just like, cancer, what? I've been trying not to think about cancer my whole life. If you don't make eye contact with it, maybe it won't notice you and you can walk past untouched. But here we are. It's like, whoa. So I remember that like a Monday night. Tuesday, I thought I'm going to go to work because I need to take my mind off things. And sitting in my office by myself, it's like about every hour I'd start thinking about get choked up again because I was just absolutely fearing the worst. My brain always tilts toward pessimism. I know some people say, why, God, why would you do this thing to me? My brain always goes the opposite way. It's like, that makes sense. Who do I think I am to dodge, something bad? I'm not anyone special in the universe that God should. So that's where my brain's going. So it's just like, oh, wow. And I'm picturing it, and I'm just thinking, in about a year, I'm going to be planning my wife's funeral. That's what I was thinking. So we had, at the time, 4 drivers at our house, 2 working vehicles, so that always makes for a fun arrangement. So I call, hey, somebody dropped me off at work. Can I get a ride home? Well, Cody's still over at the mall, and I'm still running over here, so you're going to have to wait. I thought, okay, I'll start walking. Hopefully you'll somebody, and because this was like a 3-mile walk from the office, so like, hopefully somebody will pick me up. So I think God in his genius thought we need some time together. We need a long walk together because I had to do the whole thing. Nobody ever did come pick me up, but I'm walking and I'm praying, and I'm like, God, this is virgin territory for me. I don't know what to do. I don't know how to work this. And I remember saying to him, should I just delight my little brain with these happy, perky little, everything will be fine, yay, which I know aren't true, because I don't think everything's going to be fine, obviously. I mean, she's got cancer. Or should I just embrace, just like buckle up and just embrace the suckage of this and just deal with it? Well, how should I work this? And I was praying, seriously, I need a strategy on this. I need to know how you want me to work this. And in the midst of all that thought, this thought pops into my head. Now, I will tell you this. I am not one of those people where, and the Lord spoke to my mind. Bing. I have no idea when it's the Lord speaking to my mind. I'm going to tell you, some people are good at this. They all look like thoughts. They bubble up. I can't tell when it's me being an idiot or it's something from the Spirit. So if you always feel bad, you're one of those, I can never tell when the voice is in my head. I'm with you on that. I have no idea. You just kind of have to guess. So this thought popped with me anyway. So this thought pops up in my head in the midst of all this worrying. Now, come on. What are you afraid of? I was irritated by that thought. Like, what kind of dumb question is that? Obviously, duh. She's got cancer. I'm afraid she's going to die. Now, that's not going to happen, was the next thought that popped into my head, which made me even angrier. I'm like, no, I don't know that that's not going to happen. That's the whole point. That's why I'm in the condition I'm in. I don't know what's going to happen. What a dumb thought. But then I had this creepy suspicion. It's like, wait a minute. Is this you talking, God? Because, again, I can't tell the difference. And then the next thought kind of confirmed it for me. Instantly, as soon as I said that in my head, have I ever advised anyone to be afraid? No. So then I realized, it's a faith thing. I get it now. Times like this, you just have to put all your trust in him. And at that point, as I pondered that, I remembered a little goofy song. When I first started coming back to Jesus around my senior year in high school, I was reading scripture, and when I came upon a good verse I liked, I would make up this little dorky tune to it, which I laughed at years later. Like, man, those stupid little songs I made up in my head. But now here it was 30 years later, and I needed one of those stupid little tunes. And one did pop up from my senior year in high school, from 1 Peter. It went, I won't bless you with my voice, but cast upon him every anxiety and every care. It's from 1 Peter, because he loves you as a father and is concerned how you fare. Dorky little chorus that I made up my senior year in high school when I was 17 years old, and all of a sudden, I needed it right then. Boom. And all of a sudden, that verse from 1 Peter, cast upon him every anxiety and every care, because he's your father and he cares about you, okay, is what the verse in 1 Peter says without the tune. Okay, and I realized Peter didn't say lay before him. The verb, to me, is very telling. He didn't say submit this, email it to God, put it in a letter. He uses the word throw. Throw upon God every anxiety. When you are feeling anxious, you don't feel like gingerly putting it in front of God on a silver tray. There you go. You want to go, here, and whip it on him. And that's what he says. Cast upon him. Throw upon him every anxiety and every care. Are you anxious about something? Yes, I am. Who does that belong to? You, God, if you're talking to God. So let's have it. Give me your anxiety. So I said, God, I don't have any choice. I don't know anything else. I have no other recourse for it. I'm going to have to give this to you. I am worried. I am concerned. I am fearful about my wife's health. Boom, there. It's yours. Now, here's what you'll discover, because I just sounded so hyper-spiritual just then. I gave it to the Lord. And this will erase that. It came right back. Boom. Yeah, but what about, I read somewhere, and I remember somebody telling me about, and God's like, hey, yeah, did you not just throw something on me? Yeah. What was it? My anxiety. Well, what do you got in front of you? My anxiety. Where are you supposed to put that? Supposed to give it to you. You're not supposed to give it. You're supposed to throw it on me. So give it back. And about, 700, 800 times a day, you're going to have to keep giving that back to him. Yeah, but what about, and God's like, what do you have? Anxiety. It's like he's holding out the wastebasket. Spit it out. Come on. You ever get in trouble in school for chewing gum? Come on, let's have the wastebasket. God's holding it. Give it back. Okay, there you go. So you don't have it anymore, right? Right. Because it's mine now. Yes. 5 minutes later. Oh, okay. Poof, spit it back out. It's about several hundred times a day. But here's what will get you through those times. And I pray to God that you don't go through a time like that. She actually is doing pretty good. If you'll notice, she's right there. Okay. If you look at the length of her hair, she had chemo about that long ago. Okay, so it grew back out. But to get through those rough times, you're going to have to see the twinkle in God's eye. They're going to be telling me, God, why? God, what? God, who? God, I'm so full of questions. And if you can see him going, got this. Okay. I'm not going to advise you how to picture God's face. You're on your own on that. But you just have to picture him knowing, just like Jesus had to, why you involve me? Okay, he's up to something. He is up to something. He's got this. Now, the other thing, I think it's how you see God. I think it's also how you wait. Look at that magic. Whoosh, just merges in there. It's how you wait. As Tom Petty once said, waiting is the hardest part. And it truly is. I guarantee you, the one thing I will say, people, younger Christians are like, man, you've been a Christian for decades now. What's some advice for you? I always tell them this: you will not like God's timing. Well, that's not what I wanted to hear. I don't care what you wanted to hear. I promise you, we come to God with blueprints and deadlines. Hey, you're late on this. And God says, I love the quote from Lord of the Rings, if you haven't seen it, and you got 16 hours to spare. Burn through that feel-good movie. Anyway, but Frodo Baggins accuses Gandalf of being late. And he says, oh, wizard is never late, nor is he early. He arrives precisely when he means to. Okay, I know it's Frodo, it's Gandalf, and it's fictional. But the writer of The Lord of the Rings, J.R.R. Tolkien, was a follower of God, and he was a believer in Jesus. So there, I'll quote him, the great theologian, J.R.R. Tolkien. Because that's true of God. We think God's like, God, you're late. I had a plan. It wasn't my plan, though. Yeah, but I had a deadline. By now, this was supposed to have been. What are you doing? You are not going to like God's timing. There are times you're just not going to, okay? But the fact of the matter is, he's on to something. He's up to something. He will make this work. Hang on. The biggest mistake you can do is just give up on him and try to manipulate the thing yourself and make an awful mess. Ask Ishmael how that works out. Another Bible story. So God's never late. Now, so I told you. So we go to the doctors, and they actually told us, lymphoma, as scary as cancer of the lymph node sounds, it's actually one of the best ones now because of new treatments. It's one of the best ones you can pick off the menu if you have to pick off the cancer menu. It's actually one of the best ones. A couple different people told us that. So my wife, a few months later, began chemo, and in the middle of that whole process, I'm holding it. I'm keeping it together. I'm holding it. That's okay. I get it. These things happen. Our awful human cells rebel against us, and we live in a fallen creation, blah, blah, blah. And I'm keeping it together. About halfway through the chemo process, somewhere in that February, my wife gets a blood clot in her leg, which I'm told happens sometimes if you go through chemo. And it just was like, okay, you know what? This isn't cute anymore, God. Okay, I get it. Yeah, she had got cancer. Now she's going through chemo, lost her hair. Really? A blood clot. You thought that'd be a nice touch. You thought that, what else can we do? How about a blood clot? Now, she had blood clots before, and they were much more difficult to deal with even 15 years ago. But I was keeping it together. I'm starting to get really ticked at God. Like, awesome, blood clot, yeah. Are you sure? Yeah. And they looked at it. Yes, you are. We're going to go to the hospital now for the blood clot. And in addition to the cancer, we have a blood clot now. I was being very sarcastic with God. I'm like, okay, yeah, that's really what we were intending when we were praying for things to work out here. We meant blood clot, clearly. Yeah. God can actually handle your sarcasm, by the way. I don't encourage it. I'm just saying if it comes up, he can handle it. So we had small group that night. We met at our friend's house. There was like 10 or 15 of us. And we clearly weren't going to make it. Lisa was at the hospital, and they were treating the blood clot, which actually, like I said, is much quicker now than it used to be. But so we text our group and say, we're not going to be there tonight. Lisa has a blood clot. Really cool. So I'm sure I was dripping with sarcasm in my text. So we tell them, and so we're waiting at the hospital, and I get this text from one of the guys at the group, Sean. Sean was always kind of a happy-go-lucky guy, him and his wife. And I don't remember any deep thoughts coming out of Sean, honestly. I mean, he was always just kind of, happy, perky guy. But Sean sends me something very meaningful. He starts out just, joking around with me, and he says, hey, man, I understand you guys are at the hospital. If there's anything you need, comic books or coloring books or bubble gum, yeah, you're funny, hilarious, just let me know. And then he says, the last part of his text says, just wanted to let you know we're thinking of you. And then this phrase, we're holding G. And I'm like, what exactly does that mean? Is he getting all gangsta on me? G, we're holding. I don't know. He was too pasty white uncool to do that. It was like, I think he's saying we're holding, and then G for God. Whoa. And I'm reading the text like, bravo, Sean. I didn't think you had, that's what it's all about. At times like this, all you can do, just hold. Just keep on holding. Don't let go. Keep on holding. Whoa, yeah. Thank you, Sean. I really needed that, and that's exactly what I needed. From my happy-go-lucky little pal, Sean. We're holding G. Then came the rest of his text. Came in 2 segments. The next one said, Roop in the lobby. So he was saying, we're holding group in the lobby, not we're holding G. God in his genius separated those 2 texts and gave me the first part first because I needed that. And then now that was kind of a moving gesture on their part. They decided to relocate group from the people's house to out in the lobby, and I walked, oh, you knuckleheads, I can't believe you guys are out here. And that was moving. But I told Sean later, you don't know how meaningful the first part of your text was. He said, for about 5 minutes, I thought you were really deep and poetic. He's like, nah, not me. I'm like, okay, cool. But I think God needed me to hear that, and there are going to be times in your life when just hang on, man. Just hold. Hold, G. And because what's your other choice? You give up on God and you become bitter and you start trying to work things your own way, and yeah, things are really going to mess up then. That's the way it works. So up to this point, maybe you're thinking, you kind of conjure up this whole twinkle thing. Not really a scriptural term. You can't just pull words from the dictionary and turn it into a sermon. John would never do that. Who are you, strange man, coming up? Okay, well, you know what? Just hold on. Because my final thought is a verse of scripture. So put your aprons on, because I'm about to splash awesome everywhere with this next scripture. All right? Here it is, 1 Corinthians, in a flash, in the what? Twinkling of an eye. Ha ha, it is in there. At the last trumpet, the trumpet will sound, the dead will be raised imperishable, we will be changed. Just a little reminder, there is a great big twinkle in God's eye for what he's planning. We have some nice moments in this life. You have times when like, oh man, it doesn't get better than this. And God just kind of giggles a little bit. You think that's good. Oh, just wait. The twinkling in his eye is what's going to happen when this is all done. And we realize this was just the waiting room. This was just the foyer. Oh, this thing we call life was just this goofy little holding facility until the real gadzooks, jaw-dropping, eye-popping, heart-stopping wonder, and we're going to laugh at all the things we thought was cool. Remember we thought flying would be amazing? It's so much better now. I know it's so much better now because at the end of Ephesians 3, Paul says this phrase, my favorite Bible verse on heaven, and I didn't have the foresight to put it up there, so I'll just give it to you. Paul says, now to him who is able to do immeasurably more than all we can ask or imagine, to him be praise. You hear that? Paul says to him, God, who can do immeasurably more than all we can ask or imagine. I remember reading that a few years ago thinking, really, all we can, better than anything I can imagine. I have a really good imagination. God says, bring it. Okay, I'm imagining, well, it'd be really cool. What if we could just shoot through the sky? You think that's cool, really? Because I got something so much better than that. Really? Well, how about I'm naming stuff to God. Here's some stuff on earth I really like. And God's like, yeah, those are really exciting. I don't know that he was that sarcastic, really. But because I can do, it's going to crack you up. When you get to heaven, you're going to be like, remember we thought it would be so amazing, like time travel. We thought time travel was the coolest thing in the world. And this is whatever it is, I don't know, but whatever, because I can't imagine it. But it's better. And that's the twinkle that we all look for, no matter how things get rough, and there will be rough times. You got to know, you know what? There's a twinkle in his eye. Something better is coming. If you don't remember anything else I have said, remember this. Something better is coming. And the words of Mary to the servants by the jars, do whatever he says. And that's where you hang on. There's a twinkle in his eye. I promise you guys, just do whatever he says. But I don't understand. You don't have to. But why would we do this illogical thing, filling this thing with well water? Just do what he says. I'm telling you, there's a twinkle sighting at table 17. There's a twinkle. Do whatever he says. He's up to something. Do whatever he says. I can't do better than the words of Mary on that one. Let's pray.